Hi guys, Mr. Hurley here, and today we're going to complete the 3D printing design cycle. We've already learnt how to create a simple 3D model in SketchUp and create an STL file. We then took that STL file and put it into the printer's slicer software Flashprint and learned how to use that to create the G-code file that we need to run the 3D printer. So now I'm going to show you how to take that G-code file, put it in the printer and get set up the printer to be ready to print and actually print your first model. So the first thing you want to do is to get your G-code file and pop it on a USB stick. Now I don't think I need to show anybody how to copy a file to a USB stick. That's pretty simple. I've already done that. So I'm just going to pop it into the side USB port of the printer just there like that. There we go. And I've just set up this printer here already, and I haven't really done any setup or from transport. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you guys everything that you need to do to make sure that the printer is set up and ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to load some filament. Okay, now at the back of the printer, there's a little black clip, and you just pull up this back drawer, and you can see inside it there's this little cavity, and there's should be probably a spool of filament inside. Now this is the normal way that you will do this. I actually at first didn't realize that this printer uses special small spools of filament. If you can see there, that you might not be able to read it, but oh, there we go, PLA filament. It's a 0.6 kilo roll of filament. Okay, so what I went and did is I ordered a bunch of rolls of filament of the normal 1 kilo size variety, which doesn't fit inside this little case here. So I'll show you my solution for that in a minute, but first I'll show you how to put in a spool of filament using the normal back storage tray. You want to find the end of your filament roll. Here we go, I found the end. And in this tray, up here you'll find that there's a little hole. There it is. That's the hole that we want to send the filament out through. So we've got to orient the filament this way so that the filament is coming up on this side. Now you actually want to poke that through that hole before you put the spool in there. I was just showing you how it wraps around. So I'll just go ahead and do that. Get a bit of length going. Make it easy. Poke it through the hole. Send it right through the top. Just have to get your fingers in there because the filament is all sort of twisty. Poke it through that last blue hole and right out the other side. Okay, now that's going through. I can drop my spool in, and there we go. I've got my filament going through the first hole and out through the hole at the top there, and it can pull the spool through nice and freely. Okay, after you finish that, we've got this black tube. This helps feed the filament from the spool up through into the print head, and it gives it a nice even curve, and it stops the print head from pulling too hard on the filament, because the filament is quite brittle and it can snap super easily. So all you do is pull out a little bit of filament there and just pass it all the way through this tube until it comes out the other end. Ooh. A bit more. There we go, it's coming out the other end now. And you probably secure it on the other end. I'm going to actually put it in the printer with the other spool, but I'll just show you this part of it. But you probably want to put this print head end of the tube into the print head first, and then after you've done all that, you can go and poke this this end of the tube by the drawer here. That can go nice and snug and tight inside that hole, so that it's sort of connected there, and it's connected at the print head end, so when we're pulling on the tube, when the print head moves around, and not really pulling on the filament, and so it avoids snapping the filament. Okay, but from here the steps is going to be just the same for the bigger 1 kilo rolls of filament, which are the ones that I like to use. So I'm going to actually set it up with one of those. So I'll take this off. Try to be a little bit careful with your filament because it is prone to snapping. I'll roll that back in. And I'm just going to drop that back in the back and leave that in there because I don't actually use this when I do my printing with the bigger rolls. Okay, now to use these bigger rolls, the problem is that it doesn't fit in that spool, so it doesn't hold it up and let it run around nicely. I'll just put this over here. So what I went and did is I found some designs online for some things like this. I actually designed these ones up myself so that they would fit in the printer bed and they would work. But they're just a little carousel for the spool to fit on, to sit on. And you can see that they've got those silver bits inside there. They're actually skateboard bearings. And they're trapped inside by some pins in these 3D printed parts. So these are actually printed on this printer. Okay, and so the spool edges, these edges of the spool, sit one on each of these runners, and it rolls around on the skateboard bearings, and that stands it up nicely, and it lets it just pull and spin around and pull out as much filament as it likes. So I set this up behind the printer, just where the drawer with the normal spool is, and I always make sure that the end of the filament is coming up on this side of the printer, on the right hand side of the printer if you're facing it, just because that's the same position where it comes out at the back normally. So I just wanted to make that as similar to the normal situation as possible. So all we want to go ahead and do is, I better trim off this. See this end of the filament? You can see how it's been a bit melted and it's gone a bit stringy. You really don't want that to shove that in the hot end of the printer. We want to trim that off. So I'm just going to quickly go run and get some snippers and trim that. Got my handy dandy little electronics wire cutters. And grab that end. I'm going to hold on to the end so I don't lose it, so it always springs back in, and just snip that so I got a nice clean end to my filament. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it through my tube as usual. But hey, it works. And pass it through until it pops out the end. There we go, you can just see it coming out the end there. And now I'm ready to go ahead and put it in the printer. So I'm going to change my camera angle and I'll show you that. Okay, so here we are at the top of the printer. I've already gone ahead and put the 1 kilo spool of filament around at the back end, back behind of the printer. And the first thing I need to do is to take off this top. I'm going to spin it around so that it faces me. Normally, you just do this at the side. It's sticking out on your bench, but this is going to be better for the camera. So this is the front of the printer, this is the back of the printer. The easiest way to get this thing off is it's got hooks at the back. So you just want to lean into it and push the behind of the clear lid in towards you to disengage those hooks. And it just goes in a little bit and it comes right off like that. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'll turn it back around and show you. Is we've got to go through the menus. The menus on this thing are pretty good. You just go through to, fix this so you can see it a bit better. We go to tools, we go to filament, and we say load. And that's going to heat up the print head so that when we put the filament through, it squishes through and melts through a little bit, and we can tell that it's properly in there. Okay, so it just takes a minute or so to heat up. Okay, we're now at full temperature. I've just skipped ahead a little bit, that took a minute, and now we're ready to go. I'll pop that a bit more in the middle. We get the ends of our filament that we prepared on our spool earlier, and we need to press down this lever that's right here. It's just behind this white tape of, this is like a very bunch of thin wires in this tape. You want to press down that lever there. That disengages the little motor that pulls the filament into the hot end. Just make sure this filament's not too twisted, so hopefully it doesn't snap on me. So I'm going to press that down with this hand. And I'm going to shove it in, and it goes quite a way down, right down to the bottom. And when you get it down, you can feel it goes past, and you can feel it squish into the end and start melting. You feel just a little bit of resistance. Okay, once you feel that little bit of resistance, let go of the lever, and you should feel the filament will start to be sucked in all on its own. That means that, remember the lever was disengaging it's got a little stepper motor that pulls the filament through, and now you let go, that's engaged, and the stepper motor is winding the filament through. And once you can see some filament oozing out of the hot end down the bottom, you go ahead and press done, and you're done. Simple as that. And just before I finish up, we've got to put this hose in and squish it in nice and tight into here so that the print head is pulling on the hose and not pulling on the filament, otherwise it'll snap off. I like to try and grab the print head a little bit while I'm shoving that in. I don't want to just push it right down because that'll push on these rods here, and I don't want to damage anything, so I'm going to hold the print head. Don't go and putting your fingers right underneath there because that end is hot, right? Just on the sides, and just give it a nice firm push down so it's engaged. And we're ready to put the cover back on. We do the cover backwards. I like to hook in the tube into this little space here at the back, that's so the tube can travel around a bit. Hook that in first, and you want to get the front hooks of the cover engaged first, and then clip on the backs. So poke the fronts in first, and then just squish it in on the back. It might come around a bit. There we go. Just push it in a little bit like we did to get it out, and we're good to go. Now, the last thing we need to do is, before we're ready to actually print, is to prepare the bed. Okay, let me see if I can get my. Okay, you can just see that there. This whole print bed pulls out, and you can see how I've got blue tape over it, and you might be able to see how it's sort of puckering in areas. This has been used a few times, and after it gets used a few times, the prints pull the tape up off the print surface, so it does need to be replaced. And so let's do that now. Let's head over to the bench. Okay, here we are. I've got the print bed out of the printer, and I've got my blue tape ready and some scissors to cut it. So let's get started. We first want to pull off the magnetic layer on the print bed. Let's get something in there and pry it off. Now, mine is a little bit more reluctant to come off. This is a magnet layer, and this is a magnetic removable print head, so you can get things off and clean it. And it's flexible to help you, get your prints off. You can bend that and it'll peel off the print. I've put little bits of double-sided sticky tape on here just because I also have been doing a bit of printing on a sheet of glass. I don't imagine that schools would be happy for students to be messing around with bits of glass, so we'll just stick with the blue tape method for now. The glass is a little bit better. It does make things print a little bit flatter, and it's just saves you using up a expensive blue tape. It's a little bit cheaper way of doing it. So, but blue tape works really, really well too. So let's get all this old stuff off. You can see how I've gone around the back of the folded the blue tape around the back behind, and that's really important. Basically, this surface here of the removable print bed, I have had basically no success trying to get that to get prints to stick down onto that. They always just keep coming loose and swirling around and ending up printing a bee's nest, which is a bit sad. But, yeah, I think I just need to find the right type of cleaning stuff to clean this surface, because you can probably might even see there's a few little bits of plastic print still left behind. I'm a little bit hesitant to try anything more aggressive chemical wise, so I don't want to wreck this thing. And basically, if I get my ruler and put that up against there, and when it's on the print bed, it's not even really perfectly flat anyway. I can see little bits. I can see a little bit of a gap in the middle there. You can see a bit of light going through there. So it's not a particularly flat surface anyway. So we want to give it as much help as we can. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my big fat roll of blue tape. It's the widest one you can get. It's like 54 millimeters or something like that. And just get a little bit off. And you want to start about 5 millimeters down from that edge. Get it as straight as you can. Doesn't matter if it's not totally perfect. Wrap that around, nice and flat. Chop it off and leave a bit to wrap around the other side as well. And there we go. Now comes the tricky part. We've got to get our next strip to be as close to that other edge as we can. You want to try and get it right up to the edge. Just because if your print goes across the layers of blue tape, and if there's a little gap there, you're going to have a little raised bit coming out of your print, and that usually doesn't matter too much. But if it's something mechanical that really needs a flat surface, it might matter. Or it's just a little bit less pretty if you've got a little raised line coming off the bottom of your print. But you probably don't need to worry too much. Okay, that's not too bad. Layer number 2. Ooh, I'm not good at left-handed scissors. Let's try that again. There we go. Ooh, that's what I get for using cheap scissors. And fold it around the back as well. Ooh, that's a bit of a pucker there. I'm gonna fix that. I don't really want puckers here because then it's going to have a raised bit. Okay. No, it's still a bit folded over. Oof. Okay. Let's see if we can trim up that edge and neaten that up a bit. Oof. Go away. Okay, that's much better. Nice and flat, that's what we want. And let's go for our last strip. I like to get the left side lined up first and then pivot it across to the other side and get it lined up. And then it should all just fall into place. If you look at that corner there and that corner there, the rest should line itself up. Okay, get that wrapped around behind, nice and tucked in. I'm going to use my right hand this time. Snip. Pop him around the back. Okay, very important when you're putting this layer back onto the magnetic base here. I've seen this been put on wrong when I've gone to use this printer. You've got to make sure that these tabs here go right in up against these little sticking out parts here. You want to slide it right into there. I've seen it go like that. See how the ends of these tabs are just going up to this line here, it's not going right to the end. If I go until I just go there, now on this end, the blue surface is raised up here on the handle. It's not sitting down on the magnetic bed there. I don't know how well you can see that. Yeah, you can see that it's sort of curving, flexing up onto this raised section here. We don't want that. We want our bed to be as flat as possible. So these ones have to go right in so that they're interlocking. And then it should drop down and go underneath that raised section there. If I look at the side again, now you can see that the removable bed is completely on the lower part and the raised part up here is not having anything to do with it. Okay, oops, so now we're ready to go and put this back in the printer and do our print. So let's do that. Okay, so here we are back at the printer. I've had it preheating for a few seconds. It has a preheat button. You don't really need to use that. It's just that, you know, if you don't want to wait the extra minute for it to preheat, to heat up the print nozzle, the hot end. If you've got something else to do, if you want to check something, I've done that off camera. So if you want to do that, just from the main screen, there's the middle button, says preheat, and you just press OK and it starts preheating. Now I've got my fresh blue tape on my print bed, so I'm going to open up and it just slides straight in. There's no hooking or anything, just sliding straight in. Now I've got a little bit of this, this is the filament that was squished out when we put the roll of filament in, so I'll get rid of that. Lock that in there like that. Okay. And now it's nearly ready to print. What we really want to do now is to level the bed. So, because if the bed is not level, it's not going to squish that first layer of plastic down into that print bed. It's not going to create a nice sticky surface. It's not going to stick down to the print bed nicely. So we really need to make sure we level the print bed before we start. Okay, here we go. So here's how we level the print bed. I thought I'd give you a close-up look at this the screen here. We go to Tools, and we go Level, and then the printer will home itself. It's going to find its 0 position so that it knows where it's leveling itself to. So we'll just give that a second. It has to travel the print head and the print bed up to its end stops where it's got a little button. And once it clicks on that button, you'll hear it click. Oh, it already did the click, it was just going all the way to the top. Okay, when you hear that click, that means it's pressed the button which tells it that it's zeroed its position. Now this is the step that we can skip. We don't want to screw the nuts all the way until it's all the way down. That just means we're going to have to screw it all the way back up into position. It's probably already in position maybe, so we're just going to skip that, go OK. And then it's going to test. Let's see if I can get a view of the little probe here. Okay, you see that flick out? That is a little button. A little button on a servo motor. Okay, and now it's saying the distance is too small, so we just follow the prompts. I need to screw that screw underneath here in clockwise until it beeps. It shouldn't be too much. There we go, and it says tap to verify. And it's going to probe that depth again. So it taps the button. Boom. Still too small, so I'll screw it in again. Verify again. Test again. It'll just keep doing this until it's happy. Too small again. I'm going to go a little bit more this time. Sometimes you go a little bit past when it beeps. It will actually get you to that happy place a bit quicker. Looks like it was a fair bit out of whack from transport. Just keep going. doing it twice. That's a good sign. That probably means that it's happy. Yeah, we get congratulations. Tap the OK button to go to the next leveling point. And it's going to probe 3 places, 3 positions, because by nature a tripod is always going to be a stable surface. So measuring 3 points, that's too small as well. Measuring 3 points is going to get you an indication of whether something is perfectly level. We get it level, we get it level this way first, and then we level it this way, and then we know the whole thing is level in all directions. Okay, still a little bit too small, so I turn it counterclockwise again. Let me go a fair bit this time. I can sort of see that the print bed is a little bit sideways, so let's see how that goes. And that went twice, you might be happy. Yep, it's happy. Very good. Okay, to go to the last point, and then right up underneath there, right at the back, you can see the 3rd adjustment screw there for the last adjustment point. Okay. That one looks like it might be happy straight away. Oof. Okay, and then when it's happy it says leveling completed, and you just press finish. And it puts itself down into a nice position for you. Okay, now I'm actually going to run that again, because I always like to see it go through the leveling process without needing to change anything, just to make sure it hasn't, whenever you have to level it quite a lot, it might not have arrived in a perfectly level position. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then we'll go ahead and print something. So I've gone ahead and I did run another leveling cycle off camera. There was one little tiny adjustment that it wanted after that first initial big adjustment. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you do need to make big adjustments when you run a bed level, then it's worth running it again just to give it a little fine tune up. If it's just, you just need to fix one little thing like half a turn or something, I would say that would be perfectly fine. Alright, so we're ready to rock and roll. We can go ahead and run our print. Now the menu system for this is pretty easy, so I won't bother about the full close up. We go to build, and we select USB stick, because that's where I save my file. And you see a list of all of the G-code files there are with a little picture, so you can see what you're printing. And you just scroll down until you find the file that you want to print. And I'm going to print my little house from the first SketchUp lesson. And then let's have a look. So click on house, and then we press on build. And it'll start printing. It's going to start by warming up the print head. Actually, it's already warmed up because I preheated it. And it's going to take 23 minutes. And depending on what you're printing, prints can take several hours. I've had some prints that take like 5 hours or something. That's not unusual at all. So there is an option here under More. You can set the printer to shut down when it's finished. And that's a nifty thing to do. I like to do that, just to save on power. No use having a printer on if you're going to run it overnight or something like that. So I'm going to click finish shut down, so it'll turn off once it's done. Okay, let's watch it go. Alrighty, our print is done and it's turned itself off because we chose that in the settings. I'm going to go ahead and pull the print bed out. Okay, and you can try and give that a little tug, but it might be a bit nicer to take the removable print bed off. And you can, as I said, you can flex this print bed surface, and you can hear how that peels the print away from the print bed, and that makes it much easier to just lift that off, and it doesn't put too much puckering on the blue tape there, so that's good to be used again. It's a good idea to, if you're doing lots of different prints, to when you're setting up your making your G-code file in Flashprint, to put them in different areas around the print bed, so that you're not always printing in the one area and making it really badly puckered, lifting up the blue tape in that one area again and again. It does, I mean, this stuff sticks to the blue tape so well, it actually pulls the blue tape up off the print bed, even though we've got it wrapped around the edges there, especially where the edges of the blue tape are meeting. Those two edge points there are a free point where it can pull up. You can actually get blue tape fully sized, properly, perfectly sized, fitted blue tape sheets for this printer, which would work much better, I'm sure. I haven't tried them because they're a little bit expensive. They're like $12 each, and I mean, with this I've found that I can get maybe 10, 15 prints if I'm just doing little things, and if I move them around to different areas. And you know, a roll of blue tape's like $6 or something. That's pretty good value. You get lots and lots and lots of prints out of just regular blue tape. I do think that the full sheet blue tape would probably last a lot longer than just a couple of strips of this stuff, because you know, it would be a total sheet. It wouldn't have those edges within there to weak points to pull up. But I'm not willing to make that investment. I'm happy with just the normal blue tape. So let's put this back away, ready for next time. Make sure that's all the way locked in, nice and flat, and pop them in there, and shut the lid. So now I've got my print, but I've got these the brims going around the edges. I want to get those off. I can just get this little trail off there. Okay, all you want to do is get some scissors and just cut around the edges. Just quickly zip around the edges, get as close as you can. Okay, I'll pick them up off the floor later. Okay, when you're going the wrong way, you kind of want to angle your scissors. When you're going in an edge like that, you can get your scissors a bit flat on that edge of the house there and make a nice flat cut. But when you're going in the opposite way, because I've got this little corner here, I can't get it that way, it has to be that way, just angle your scissors in to get the blade of the scissor right up against that corner, and you can just mostly peel away. Alrighty. Now if you want a really nice finish, or if it's a part that's mechanically important, because you can see that there's just a little bit of a brim, this is just a little tiny edge of a brim just on there in some places. I like to get just a little file, just a little tiny, these come in a set from Bunnings, and just zip, and that gets it right off. You just want to make sure that you file into the thickness. So here's my bit of brim is on this side, and I'm going to file into and across the thickness. I'm not going to file, here's I've turned it around so that the brim is on the edge facing away from me. I'm not going to file the brim off the edge. I'm going to file the brim into the side, and that will force it to file it completely off. So zip, zip, a couple of zips all the way around all the edges. Yeah, that gets it nice and gets rid of all those little leftover bits of the brims. I mean, like I said, it's not terribly important if it's just a little sculpture like this one, but if you're making something mechanical, like a cog or a pulley or something that pivots inside something else, it might be a little bit more important that is the true dimensions, not having little extra bits sticking out. Okay, so that only took a few seconds, and now I've got a nifty little house that I designed. Alright, so that's it. that's how you print with the Flashforge Inventor 2 3D printer. These ones are used at most schools, so yeah, have fun and see what you can come up with. Thanks for watching.